A season-long championship comes to a close tonight, with the winner earning the chance to bridge the gap from virtual racing to real racing. Tonight, 40 Canadian Esports competitors take to iRacing one last time at one of their home soil tracks. Welcome to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, perhaps better known as Mosport, for the season finale of the 2023 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. Two drivers, Antoine Lecharity and Racim Fazui, are separated by just 4 points. It's winner take all in this last chance competition. Welcome back to Porsche and Twitch and to the season finale for the 2023 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. I'm Kyle Harvey, joined by Jake Sperry here in a little while. Welcome finally to the last round of this championship in Bowmanville, Canada. Here's a quick look at our season standings for the Porsche Centers. At the top of the board is Porsche Center Lausanne with 982 points, leading Porsche Center Rive Sud by just 21 points. The drivers and teams have paired up with Porsche Centers around Canada to compete for prizing, not only with themselves as competitors, but with their Porsche Centers. Porsche Center Halifax is third, then it's Mark Motors and Markham, then North Toronto, Edmonton, Oakville, Winnipeg, and Vancouver, the rest of the top 10. As far as the driver standings go, this is where it gets very interesting. It's Antoine Lecharity in the number 21 car. Porsche Center Lausanne leading the way with 533 points, but just 4 points back to Racim Fazui for Porsche Center Rive Sud. It is absolutely so close between these two. Effectively, winner take all in this championship. Whichever driver finishes ahead of the other, once we factor in qualifying, they will be champion in this challenging competition in 2023. And what's on the line here? First place of the Drivers' Championship will receive a prize package that includes a spot at the Porsche Track Experience program at the 2-day performance level, bridging the gap from virtual to reality, as well as a Tag Heuer connected watch and some Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds too, Porsche Motorsport seating, and a Porsche Motorsport jacket, and plenty of other things to boot. So there's a look at your top 10 here in the season standings as we look down the order a little bit farther at drivers like Josh Manalo, Alex Ellis, Suelio Almeida. See Porsche Center Markham only separated by just 1 point between each other. They have been remarkably consistent with each other throughout the season. As we head into qualifying here in just a moment, before we do, let's have a look at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. 3.9 kilometers around this circuit, 11 corners. It all starts with a rundown towards turn number 1. That's at the top of your screen, top right of your screen, coming at you into the fast and flowing downhill right-hander. That is turn number 1. You climb uphill at the apex and then over into the downhill sweeping turn number 2. Track all the way out to the edge of the road without touching the grass before taking turn number 3. That will head you down towards turn number 4 and then into the famous 5A, 5B, 5C complex, Moss Corner. That will head you up the hill towards turn 6, 7, and then into 8. A very fast right-hander, maybe a passing opportunity, but a trouble spot as well. Then it's turn 9, a left-hander, before you creep back around to the right and finish out the lap at turn number 10. That's a lap here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and qualifying is already underway as we head down to the racetrack to get coverage started for you tonight. 2 races, a 15-minute and a 30-minute coming up for this evening, and at the end of it, we will crown our champions. One of which, as we mentioned, the number 21 of Antoine Lecharity, the other, Racim Fazui. And those drivers have been fighting so tight all season long. And as it stands right now, they're just getting on track to put in their lap times. Racim Fazui just jumped up to second place here in this qualifying effort. It's going to be absolutely critical that he gets a front row start here to just put everyone else in the rearview mirror. Works his way down through turn number 2. Let's jump on board for a lap. We're already into turn number 3 as he follows. I think that is what the number 18 car just ahead of him, which is Yann Renault, passing some traffic on the right, and then downhill into turn number 4. Carry some speed here. Make sure the car doesn't wash out too far. You want to keep it tight to the left here. Into Moss Corner, sharp uphill increase. Let the elevation catch you on the brakes and then accelerate out up the hill towards turn number 8. Now the speeds climb up 4th and 5th gear, and you're going to get into 6th gear here at this course as well. Use the slipstream if you've got it, and then move back track left for the entrance to turn number 8, a very fast right-hander that will carry you through this sweeping corner. Don't touch the curb here. Might want to nibble the one on the right here to get yourself set up for turn number 9. A flick back to the left and turn number 10 right here, but looks like Rassim's going to head back into pit lane and grab a fresh set of tires. His biggest competitor this time around is Antoine Lacharity in the number 21 for Porsche Center Lausanne. Lausanne is leading the Porsche Center standings, and Antoine is leading the driver standings, but just by 4 points. Didn't have the best of runs when it came to our 7th round at Interlagos not that long ago, and Lacharity is now just outside of striking distance for Rassim Fazouzi. He's going to have to be pretty much perfect tonight to maintain that 4-point advantage and sneak out a victory here this time around. He's got his teammates lined up behind him there on course, all in an effort to get clear racetrack. Phil Bouchard, the number 73 for Porsche Center Rive Sud. This is another team that is doing exceptionally well in the Porsche Center standings. Second place to the Lausanne team, 21 points back. Bouchard's won a couple of races this season. He's got, of course, his teammate, Rassim Fazouzi, that is the one to watch here in the championship. Suelio Almeida rejoins us back here this week. He's jumping down onto pit lane, but had to miss a couple of rounds because of some real-world racing engagements, and was here at this racetrack not too long ago competing in an endurance race, so maybe that experience will translate over. He's got some left side damage here on this qualifying effort, but he has dropped now into 5th place. Not a bad run by any stretch of the imagination. So where will the 21 slot in is the big question. As lap times continue to drop in, drivers may not just reset their car. They have to come all the way back down to the pit lane to get a fresh set of tires before they can get back on the racetrack. And Andrew Caron up into 2nd place. This is a driver and the Porsche of Halifax team car that has been absolutely exceptional in the 2nd race of the evening, typically, once we get that 10-driver invert. And here's a driver that we have not talked about all that much this season because he's been quietly lingering. Guillaume Levesque, 3rd in the standings for Porsche Center Lausanne, 84 back from P1. A little too far back to really be a contender for the championship here this season, but he has absolutely put on a very consistent performance, and it's certainly a season to be proud of for the Triple Eight. He has been quiet, lingering in 3rd through 5th most of the year, but what he would do to make an upset here and win the last couple of races. Stephen Warkup in the number 4. Pretty strong qualifying effort so far for him in his Porsche Center Edmonton car. A best lap of a 1:17.990 as a pack of cars comes on by, one of which is Richard Hibbs in the Porsche Center Richmond car. There he is in the number 51. We have a handful of onboard videos tonight from drivers and teams participating in this. One of them is Vincent Trepanier in the number 87. Here he is coming back down to pit lane to get a fresh set of tires, but we'll get a great look on board the number 87, as well as some of our championship front runners like Phil Bouchard, Andrew Caron, Rassim Fazouzi, and Antoine Lacharity. Simon Theriault, the number 89, pretty strong effort so far. Just got bumped back to 10th with Matt Adams improving up to a 1:17.852. And heads down through turn number 3 on his qualifying effort. Now into turn 4, down the hill towards Moss Corner. Adams has had a challenging season this time around. Has had the pace, but got himself into trouble a couple of times. Earliest at the Nürburgring a couple of months ago, and goes off at Moss Corner there at a pretty high rate of speed. Giuliano Romagnolo, strong effort here, position number 6 here in qualifying, with 8 minutes and 45 seconds remaining here in this session. How about Jean-Ganal Renault? Some damage on this car, the Porsche Center North Toronto team car, paired up with Chris McGraw this season, and while the success hasn't followed McGraw as closely as it has the number 18, Jean-Ganal Renault has won a couple of races and has been in the fight pretty much the entire season, especially in those second races. So we'll see what he can do tonight, but right now only 15th best, as you see Alex Ellis waiting to return to the racetrack. And Alex Ellis again paired up with Porsche Center Markham and teammate Suelio Almeida, who is back this season, as we mentioned, past champion of this series. Has not been able to commit to the full championship this year, but runs 9th right now, has some fairly decent speed here in qualifying. Phil Bouchard still the fastest driver here in Bowmanville, Ontario, though heads down through turn number 2 and leads qualifying by 25 thousandths of a second. Then it's Andrew Caron in the 06, Guillaume Levesque, Racim Fazui, the number 58, Juliano Romagnolo, then Adams, Warcup, Trepanier, Almeida, and Therio, the rest of your top 10. Nathan Bartley improves this time by the stripe, a 1:17.967, puts him up inside the top 10. He will head off on another flying lap here. Phil Bouchard looks like he's on an improvement lap. He's dragging with him the number 58. And as far as his championship competitor goes, LaCharity has not yet gotten a representative lap. Will it change this time through? It will not. This is going to be setting up now for a flying lap. Let's ride on board over the right shoulder of the championship leader. Lots of clear track ahead, and still trying to generate some heat in the tires here as he heads down into turn number 2, gets the left sides right against the edge of the grass, and now shoots down towards turn number 3. Back up into 4th gear, short shifting to keep from spinning the rear tires. And this will be a flying lap for the number 21. He's going to have to chase his championship rival, who is currently scored in 4th with just 6 minutes remaining. Now up onto the back straightaway. Still weaving, generating some heat in the tires. The AAA to Guillaume Levesque, his teammate in the Porsche Center Lausanne car, riding right behind. They're going to swap positions now. Guillaume, one spot better than Racim Fazui. How will this play out for the 21? Where will he land this time through? Leaving turn number 10. Is it an improvement for the 21? Likely just still another warm-up period. And across the stripe for Antoine LaCharity. Still not a pickup in time, and this might be the lap here following his teammate, trying to get that slipstream and draft, carry him down the hill. Sound of the inline 6 screaming behind Antoine LaCharity. Again, this Porsche 911 GT3 Cup 992 generation car is absolutely well balanced, but it has an exceptional power plant behind the rear driver and simulated extremely well here in the iRacing Motorsport simulation software. And what a season it has been with these cars. Some of the best racing that you can find on the iRacing platform, and some of the best drivers you can find on the iRacing platform and in Canada in general. And with the change this season to incorporate the Porsche Centers, it has been a thrilling championship, and it is only getting better as we are finishing out our 8th and final round of the season. Andrew Caron goes to provisional pole at a 1:17.514, and here comes LaCharity once again. Is it good enough to go to the top of the board? It is not again, so he will go around. This is getting nerve-wracking perhaps for the number 21, that he is not qualifying nearly as well as we would have expected. And if he ends up down the order, what a challenging night it would become. Gregory Hovesen in the number 15. He's a driver that we have video on board with tonight. We'll share that with you now as he heads down into turn number 3. This is an exceptional qualifying effort for the driver, the number 15, paired up with Porsche Center Halifax. And teammates with Andrew Caron. They've had lots of speed here so far tonight with Caron on the front row, and now Hovesen would line up behind him as is. Up onto the back straightaway now. Hovesen still looking in the green. So is Guillaume Levesque, way on the other side of the racetrack and chasing the number 21, giving him some clear space. With only 3 minutes to go and about 1:17 seconds a lap. They might get 2 more opportunities to go quick. This time looking a lot better for Antoine Lecharity. Will it put him up in the mix for consideration of the front row? A 1:17.797. It is 7th quick for Antoine Lecharity, but I don't think he's going to be satisfied with that, and he's going again for another fast lap. 4/10 up already as he heads down into turn number 2. Now leaving turn number 3, still looking 1 second to the good. That would put him on pole as it stands. Can he carry it all the way around the rest of the track? There's some traffic ahead of him. Will it slow him down? 4 points behind Racine Fazui, and if Racine out-qualifies him, it will bring that gap down to effectively nothing and turn it into a straight-up winner-take-all championship event. Up on the back straightaway, Antoine bailing out of it. Tucking back in behind the 888. Maybe he's aiming for one more quick one. As they work their way around, finishing up qualifying here for the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. The final round of competition. Lecharity bumped to 8th place. Josh Manalo up to 14th. Racine Fazui down to 5th as Bouchard and Matt Adams take 2nd and 3rd. Here's the teammates, Adams and Etienne Leger, that are paired up 2 by 2 down the back straightaway. They're headed into turn number 8 on their perhaps last qualifying effort. Adams bails out, leaves Etienne to his own devices there, and Adams is off course. Only 1 minute left here in qualifying, and Lecharity might not get back to the stripe. It's going to be very, very close. But he won't get one more opportunity. If this lap does not count or isn't quick, he will not be pushed into the front row for this race, and he will have to start no better than 8th place. Here comes Lecharity to the outside at turn 8, past his teammate. 38 seconds left on the board. Final corner for Lecharity in consideration of his championship hunt. It is a 1:17.677. It puts him right next to Racine Fazui by .000. They have run nearly identical lap times, and now they will start on the exact same row number 3. That is absolutely unbelievable. Connor Horn joins us now, filling in for Jake Sperry. Connor, thanks for jumping in here at the very last minute. It is the final round of our championship here. The points leaders are separated by just 4 points coming into the night. And as it stands now, they just qualified on row 3 together. Antoine Lecharity in the Porsche Center Lausanne car, the number 21, and Racine Fazui in the number 58. 5th and 6th with an identical lap time.
Oh boy, sounds like my type of rodeo for sure. That is absolutely as tight as it gets up at the front, no doubt about it, but it is going to be wild. Obviously, not too prepared for tonight, but I do love Mosport. It's one of the most fun road courses. In my opinion, one of the most underrated road courses. I love lapping this thing. Just a shame the trucks don't go here anymore in NASCAR, but almost any car can put on the show here.
Absolutely, and it's a thrilling evening here, the last of 8 rounds of our championship. We have 2 races tonight. We have a 15-minute race and then a 30-minute race, all of which will count for points, all of which will decide our season champion. And just to refresh everyone's memory on what the champion gets in this series, the first place driver in the championship will receive a prize package that includes a spot at the Porsche Track Experience program at the 2-day performance level, bridging the gap from virtual reality, and a Tag Heuer connected watch, Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds too, and a whole bunch of other Porsche swag. Second place, well, it's going to get the Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds and some Porsche swag, but they will not get the Experience Center experience. Third place at the Drivers' Championship will also get those Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds and some other Porsche swag, as well as some iRacing credit contributions. But 39 teams and drivers from Porsche centers around Canada. Connor, this is a true national championship with some of the best drivers I've seen in iRacing over the course of these years. This is some of the most thrilling racing we're going to see in these Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars. They're lined up and ready to go racing here after a pace lap. And we're going to turn them loose here in just a moment. But this is a big deal for this championship, and we've come a long, long way to get here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's a big deal. And you said second and third, they do get prizes, but does it really mean anything compared to a track day and getting actual seat time? I don't think anything compares to that. And it is definitely, a sought-after, I guess, prize to go after. And there's no doubt about it. It's going to be intense to the very end. Something like that is a dream for me, you, almost anyone who knows racing. So there's no doubt about it. This is going to be a battle. Yeah, and it's at the Porsche Experience Center. So track days is one way to put it, Connor. It's a really big deal to jump behind the wheel of a Porsche 911, especially one that you've campaigned here in iRacing for the last couple of months, paired up with teammates in this championship. And as far as the drivers that are really in the mix of this, Racim Fazou, you see him here, qualified in 6th place to the outside of his teammate, not his foe in the championship, and 1 extra point awarded to Antoine for out-qualifying Racim. So the gap differential is 3 points between Antoine and Racim right now as Antoine gets prepared for go racing. He looks very serious indeed. You're going to have to be serious. You can't take this lightly whatsoever. It's going to be a grueling, it can be a grueling track at times. So many different types of corners, uphill, downhill, elevation change to the extreme. You have to be absolutely perfect tonight. Here's a look at our starting lineup here tonight as the safety car rolls around the back straightaway. Up front, it's Andrew Caron in the number 06. He will start on the front row for Porsche Center Halifax. Phil Bouchard for Porsche Center Rive Sud. He lines up in 2nd place. Row 2, it's Matt Adams for Mark Motors and Gregory Hoveson, who rolls off 4th in the number 15. Then it's Antoine Lecharity for Porsche Center Lausanne and Racim Fazou, who will start 6th in the number 58. In 7th, it's Guillaume Levesque in the 888, and Vincent Trepanier starts 8th in the number 87. In 9th place, it's Nathan Bartley in the number 37, and Juliano Romagnolo starts 10th in the number 55. Then it's Suelio Almeida back with us this week for Porsche Center Markham in 11th, Christopher Cook for Porsche Center Kelowna in 12th place. Stephen Warcup and Josh Manalo 13th and 14th, Simon Theriot and Blake Townend make up your 8th row. Etienne Leger and Zoran Radosavich in row number 9. Then it's Enzo Johansson and Justin Ream in row number 10. Pace car pulls off. It's time to go racing. The Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada, the season finale from Mosport. 15 minutes on the board. We're racing. Down into turn number 2, Caron leads the way. Side by side is Phil Bouchard for 2nd place. Matt Adams on the outside, but Racim Fazou tucks in behind Lecharity. This is the championship on the line here. Big dive by the 21 onto Matt Adams in the number 17. As he clears that 17, puts a car between himself and his championship rival. That's going to be the most important part for Lecharity, getting the advantage on the initial start. You have to put as many cars in between you and your competitor as possible. Not able to do that. Matt Adams just kind of laying over here, not much pace early on. Yeah, he's slipping down pretty quickly. Definitely not liking the cold tires on these cars. Relatively short pace lap here, 3.9 kilometers. All season long, we've got a little bit longer than that to generate some heat in the tires and brakes, but now up the long back straightaway. Andrew Caron leads the way. He has won a handful of races. In race number 2, we have a 10-driver invert for that 2nd race, and Andrew's done really well at that. But as far as climbing through the field, drivers like Phil Bouchard have struggled with that field inversion. He runs 2nd. But Porsche Center Halifax with cars 1st and 3rd right now, a very strong start for that team. Yeah, strong as well. They got sorted out. Really not much drama. As you can see, a little bit of dirt gets kicked up there, but big dive there for the position. But able to make it work. Lecharity is wasting no time right now. Definitely can't waste any time. The 21 around the outside. Racim Fazou is going to try to follow, but can't quite clear Hoveson here. Now he's going to look drivers left, headed into turn number 3. This is tough, putting yourself on the outside of another competitor here as you try to move forward. And here comes a AAA to Guillaume Levesque.
in behind. Again, third place in the championship. He's won a couple of races, but that was very tight heading down the hill into turn 4.
They might have made even a little bit of contact even before that. Very, very aggressive, trying to pinch them off before they go towards the downhill, but he was able to make it work without any further confrontation.
Well, Almeida back in the pit lane, didn't exactly see what had happened. Now up the back straightaway, Andrew Cron leads, Phil Bouchard, Antoine Lecharity, Greg Hoveson, and then Racine Fazui, then Guillaume Levesque, your top 6 into turn number 8. And line astern, this track is so fast that, we talk about tracks racing really well. This one does, but it can be very hard to make overtakes because they're all in such high-risk areas here as we watch Giovanni Romano in the number 337, and that is the 23, Gustavo Foze, who's alongside him here, especially in turn number 10, Connor. That can get dicey.
That can get dicey. We've seen so many classic, big block there almost. We've seen so many finishes come down to contact in the final corner. Even today's races, the NASCAR Plainty Series had a bump and run go wrong, but that is definitely a corner that side by side is almost impossible.
Yeah, there's a lot of places here where you're just carrying so much momentum, it can get you in a really bad spot. Blake Townend in the number 57 started 16th. He's climbed up to 12th, so a very strong start. Manalo, a similar story, up a couple positions in his number 86 for Porsche Center Vancouver. And he right now is putting some pressure on Stephen Warcup ahead of him in the number 4 as they navigate through Moss Corner here, Connor.
Yeah, it's a very important corner to make up any sort of time because you get really hard on the brakes into a downhill part of the track. Very easy to make a mistake there, as we see one of the other Porsches off. That's Arnaud Jeunesse, the 312, went a little bit off there, but able to continue with minimal damage.
Yeah, let's see what happened to him. It was off in the gravel, but how did he get there? That's the interesting thing that we want to know as this race clicks time away. 11 minutes and 10 seconds to go. Down the hill chasing the number 18. That is Yann-Gano Renault. Just gets in the grass there on entry, Connor, and away it went.
It almost looked like they didn't even get into the grass. Almost just looked like too much rear brake. It looked like it broke sideways before the grass even, but very, very fortunate that not completely bend the car, and we have another crash. This one a lot more damage for Kevin Norris.
Yeah, this is the 774 car, Kevin Norris. Some damage on the front of that car. Gets in there a little hot, and there was contact. Was that Roman, it was the 11 car, rather, of Nicholas Michel, and then they came together big time there at turn number 10.
That was a huge, huge hit. That was more than I thought. A car went completely flying over there, and that is going to be almost insurmountable damage for both those drivers.
Yeah, that's not likely to be easily repairable. 4 drivers out here earlier in this race. Dylan Bourget, Nicholas Michel, Nathan Bartley, and Suelio Almeida are out as it stands. 10 minutes to go in this 15-minute first race, and Andrew Caron leads, but our championship leaders, Racine Fazui and Antoine Lecharity, running 3rd and 5th. Antoine's got the advantage, and as it stands, again, I made a mistake earlier. It wasn't down to 3 points. It was up an additional point after qualifying, so that gap would have been 5 points between Lecharity and Fazui. So he's building a little bit of a gap, and that he's going to need that because, again, when we invert race number 2, that's going to be the critical race where if you didn't have the advantage, you need to go get it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. That invert's going to really play a huge part in this, but he's doing what he needs to do right now. He's got a car in between. They got a car in between them competitors, so that's very important. And if he can even get a few more positions, he's not too far off of Bouchard, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that he could get a little bit more of an advantage.
And as far as lap times go, Lecharity as quick as Phil Bouchard ahead of him in that number 73 for Porsche Center Reeves Sud. And think about the teammates here. Racine Fazui is a Porsche Center Reeves Sud driver, so what can Bouchard do? You can't throw blocks, but maybe you can play some defense here and try to keep this 21 behind you just long enough to bring Racine back into the fight.
Yeah, blocking's a big no-no, but what he can do is he might not want to because of where he is position-wise. He is a second and a half off the race leader at this point, but he could potentially, he wipes the sweat off very intense, but he could potentially back up Lecharity a little bit if he really wants to, maybe a little bit slower into the apex of the corners, really make him either go too aggressive or just completely push him back to the drivers behind.
Yeah, and you saw Lecharity pushing the sweat out of his eyes. His forehead is shiny. He is working for it right now. Racine Fazui is the one chasing him down, and he is just surgical in the precision of his racecraft. And you see the tongue hanging out here, the focus on his face. He knows how he has to get things done, but he also knows he's got a teammate up the road that might be able to help him here as we approach really the halfway point of this race. 8 minutes to go. And all Antoine needs to do is pick up a couple more points that'll get him a buffer that he can utilize in race number 2.
And yeah, for sure, that buffer would be huge. But you're talking about he knows he has a teammate up ahead to help him. Pizui does, but you really don't want to have to rely on that. Yes, it's good, but you don't want to have to rely on a teammate slowing someone up. You want to try your hardest to get up to that driver and get it done on your own. But that being said, I'm not sure if he can do that. It's going to take a lot of time to gain at this point of the race to make that work, as Lechère gets as close to the bumper as he can of Bouchard, but not able to make any sort of move. That slipstream, it helps a little bit as we have another car off. Matt Adams went off. His fall continues, but that slipstream can help, but I don't think it would be enough up the straightaway. And
here's what happened to the number 17. Just runs himself a little bit wide. And we should also point out that while Lechère is chasing Phil Bouchard, who is Racim Fazoui's teammate. Look who Racim Fazoui has behind him. That's the 888. This is the Porsche Center Lausanne car that is teammates with Lechère. So roles reverse back here. We got one teammate chasing the one of the drivers and the other teammate chasing the other. This is going to get very interesting here. They're all losing time, massive amounts of time, to Andrew Caron, who now leads by 1.8 seconds. And as far as the season standings go for Caron, he is down in 4th place, and he could be making up some ground on Guillaume Levesque as well. So the podium spot on this season points is still very much in contention as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That race is not over for that position at all, but the race for elite might be over. So you were talking about Corona's driven away, and the gap is continuing to increase. Just looks like Bouchard does not have any pace. He surely has clean air at this point, but he just does not have the speed to keep up with the lead, and he is holding up a line of cars right now.
Yeah, cork in the bottle perhaps, but some of this might be on purpose. Again, it's so challenging to make passes that you don't even really need to get in the way. You just need to be in front of another driver. It will slow them down. And we know Phil Bouchard's got pace, but he was a half a second off of Andrew Caron last time by. Lechère, if he could get by, he's got the pace, I think, to put some distance on the 73, even go up there and run down Caron, maybe steal a win here, but he's only got 5 minutes left to go do that here.
This is probably going to be his best time to do it is in these final corners, but as you can see, not close enough to really have any sort of realistic look, and he's not going to want to dive bomb at any point. You do not want to risk the advantage you have just slipping away just like that. You can see he's going a little bit more tight on the apexes, trying to make something happen, get clean air on that nose, but nothing doing yet.
Yeah, Zoran Savage and Matt Adams almost had it coming together, leaving turn number 11. That was a little bit close for comfort. Here's a look at it as they came through the final corner. Watch how tight this gets, Connor, as they leave turn number 10 and right across the nose of the 34.
It's as tight as it gets in the final corner without there being contact. Very fortunate he was already clear by that point, but able to make that pass work, and he looks to be pulling away just a slight little bit. He's got clean air in front of him to work with.
And clouds have come over the racetrack as well. How much is that going to change the weather perhaps in this one? Enzo Johansson, Yangonal Renault. This is a driver that we've seen win a handful of races, and it's number 18 for Porsche Center North Toronto, but not really in an invert position. A lot of his wins have come from that second race where we invert the top 10. As now the pressure is on, Antoine Lechère is back behind the bumper of Phil Bouchard. He knows what's at stake, and right now if they stay as is, he would have an 8-point advantage over Fazoui for that second race, but Racim would start 2 positions ahead of him with that reverse grid.
Yeah, so this would be extremely important to get this extra position with only 4.5 minutes to go, but that was as close as he got up the straightaway. It was as close as he's been. Once again, trying to get clean air on that nose. He can get up to the back of Bouchard, but Bouchard is shutting that right side line down before the final 2 corners, not giving him anything to work with there.
Down into turn number 2, such a fast-flowing racetrack. Other than Moss Corner, you're never really slowing down. You're just carrying so much speed. A little bit of understeer there on turn in. The camber fights you a little bit at turn 3 here at Mosport. But Caron continues to drive away. And that could throw a wrench into things too. If he's got that pace in the second race and is able to drive through the pack, that would disrupt this lead battle that we've been watching. Lechère turns in a little bit later, a little earlier on throttle. We're going to have a drag race up to turn number 8.
Yeah, he's going to have maybe a little bit of a chance here, but that slipstream is just not too strong. But you can see it pull him closer. He's actually going to push Bouchard, almost gets him a little bit sideways. He wants that right side line badly, but he's also probably just, I wouldn't say he's content with staying back here, but he's definitely pressuring him.
And here comes the 21 to the inside at turn number 8. They are door to door here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. That was very close. They're going to touch there, banging fenders as they come to the final corner.
He's got the preferred line here, though. If he could get the run off, that could be position done. Bouchard a little bit wide, and I think Lacharity's going to have it here.
Spied him. Hoverson sideways on the front straightaway. Grinds to a halt as Lacharity, I think, has completed the pass on Bouchard. He has. And what happened to Hoverson?
That was a really, you would not expect it here. Big, he almost looked like for a big send in the final corner. Didn't make it work. You see, he tries to defend here. Yeah, that's maybe a little bit, just not going straight down the straightaway, causing that maybe. Yeah, the 888 had overlap on that quarter panel, and just one of those not clear moments, just a little bit, and Hoverson down to 17th place. That is not good news for Porsche Center Halifax, despite them leading this race. Their team car falls now outside of the top 10 and top 15. All the while, Racim Fazui now has Phil Bouchard up next on the list, and if Phil Bouchard is playing the team game here, you would think, Connor, that he would just move over and let this 58 on by, just to reduce the amount of points that Racim will have as a disadvantage heading into race 2. I would assume he would as well, but Fazui's got to get there first. It's a very big gap. It's not like he's all over Bouchard right now, so something's going to have to happen at this point. Through the last couple of corners here, 1 minute and 52 seconds remaining in race number 1 of the night, and we'll have that second race up in a little while. That's a little longer. That will give drivers a bit more time to figure out their race cars. And you look at it right now, there's a ton of guys who are really going to have to look at what they need to do to maybe try to make their car better in a short amount of time. Minute and 23 seconds. That means that next time we'll be coming back to the white flag. That will signify our final lap. It's been actually pretty tame elsewhere in the field. Lots of line astern because of how competitive it is. It's just so hard to find any advantage. But if we think about where the invert's going to land, this driver, Blake Townend for Porsche Center Winnipeg, is in the control of that inversion spot. If he stays as is, that would put him and Josh Manalo on the front row if they can cling to this position. Yeah, and he should have no issue keeping that position unless he wants to advance, which he might not care to at this point. He's got a pretty good gap over Terriol in 11. Not too much of a chance of getting that position away from Townend at this point. Turn number 8 now. Blake Townend keeping on in 10th place right now. Up in front, Andrew Caron takes the white flag. Should just be one final lap to go here in race 1 at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for the season finale for Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. As far as his fight goes with Guillaume Levesque in the points championship for 3rd place, he's got a 4-position advantage over him. Again, I think based on how the season standings were laid out, it was going to be a little bit of a tall task to run him all the way down, but he's going to get about halfway there with this advantage over the 888 of Guillaume with this race alone. Yeah, and this is a big step towards doing that for sure. But one thing I'm going to pay attention to right now, Lachariot, look at the time coming down. What was it, over 2 seconds? At one point, it's almost down to 1.5 seconds. So he is flexing some muscle, showing his championship competitor, Fazui, that he has got the pace to compete for it. Heading up the back straightaway now, nose to tail. And Phil Bouchard, he's going to do the smart thing here, swap positions and put Racim Fazui up into 3rd place, and will close that gap down as Andrew Caron for Porsche Center of Halifax. He has been on it tonight, on it this season, fighting for 3rd in the championship. He's not going to be a winner of the championship, but he could be on the podium. Checkered flag for race 1. Andrew Caron brings it home. Antoine Lacharity, 2nd place in the number 21. That was a very important position for him to earn. And then at the stripe, Racim Fazui, 3rd place in the number 58, in trouble behind him. One car upside down at the stripe, and it's Johansson in the number 91, and he will not make it back to the checkers. What in the world? That was almost like the same thing we saw earlier, but we have a crash instead. Townend does get, I believe, that 10th spot, so he'll be on pole, but wild crash to end this one. Yeah, that is bizarre, and go back a little bit further and see how it picked off, that we run down into turn number 8. It was alongside the 34 of Zoran Radisavage here. Was there a touch right there? No, they were all clean and green until this point. 18 of Yangonal Renault right there. There's the touch. Oh, yeah. That's what sent him around. Man, the wall just catapults him onto this lid. and just a freak accident. That's what we were talking about. That too wide in that corner specifically almost never works.
Well, that was a wild race. We're not done yet, though. Here's a quick look at your top 10. Andrew Caron, Antoine Lecharity, Rassim Fazouzi, Phil Bouchard, and Guillaume Levesque. Your top 5 in this one. Vincent Trepanier, Christopher Cook, Warcup Manalo, and Townend, who are at the tail end of their top 10. They will be the ones starting on the front row when we have our field inversion here in just a couple of minutes. So with that, we're going to talk to a couple of our drivers. Let's start with our driver that finished in 3rd place in that race. That was Rassim Fazouzi. He's going to join us in just a moment's time. And Rassim, I know this is a tough night, and if there's a lot of focus that you're going to have to make it through to win this championship. You're going to have to go take it away from Antoine. Take us through your first race, and do you think you can get by him in race number 2?
Yeah, hello. So qualifying on 677. That was neat. Phil and I both overpushed the front, so we didn't have the pace to catch him. Now it's traffic management. He handled traffic very well in the sprint race, and he starts on the inside. So I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna turn out. There might be a crash ahead. I just don't know anymore. I only had like 2 days of practice, so I'll take what I can get, and we'll see from there.
Gap is 7 points for you, Rassim, just to put in your memory bank there. So that means
how much did Antoine get?
The gap is now 7 points. He finished ahead of you, so that means that if you win, Antoine needs to finish P3 or worse for you to win. So that's what's on the line. That's what's at stake, and we're wishing you the best of luck.
All right, take care.
And now we'll talk with our runner-up from the previous race. That was Antoine in the number 21. Antoine, we can tell you it is a stressful night for you. You're sweating. You're putting everything you can into it. You finished ahead of your championship rival. You qualified basically identically. The pace is almost the same, but you were able to out-drag him there. You've got a 7-point advantage over the number 58 heading into this last race. What's going through your mind, and how stressful is this trying to keep that 58 in the rear view?
Yeah, very stressful because now I'm behind him, so it's gonna be a all different story. So looking forward to it. Was looking more to do a pole and then win the sprint race to remove a bit of stress, but like always, it doesn't always work the way you plan. So now we have to work with it.
Well, I'm going to wish you the best of luck, Antoine. We're going to let you get back to work because I know this is a big night. So take a breather for a second, and good luck to you.
Yes, thank you, guys.
All right, Connor, so that is our driver interviews out of the way for our intermission period here between our 2 races, and we'll get racing in just a couple of moments' time. But, Connor, the what's on the line here is an experience unlike nothing else. To get behind the wheel of a Porsche at the Porsche Experience Center, a Tag Heuer watch, I'd love one of those. There is so much on the line. How do you focus and keep the butterflies from impacting your performance in something like this?
I think what I would do is just completely forget about what's at stake. You kind of just got to push that aside. Yeah, obviously it's a big deal. There's no doubt about that. But if you keep thinking about that while you're racing to earn it, you're just going to get a clouded mind. You're not going to be focused. Like I think you were talking about, you're not going to be able to be at your best. You just have to push the rewards aside. You just have to look at it like it's just another race. You already had a 15-minute race. Now you got 30 minutes. Now you have more time to focus on the task at hand, manage the tires and all that. You have to be absolutely keeping that what's at stake out of your mind and just treat it like it's just another one of these races. You just have to focus on the task at hand and not what could be.
Well, this is it. This is the final race of the season. This is what we've all been waiting for the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada in 2023. We have gone across the virtual world here in iRacing from all the way from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve at the beginning of the season, now all the way back around the world to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park and Mosport. Connor, there's so much on the line here, and lap number 1 is always critical. How do you keep yourself out of trouble at a track that's so fast and has so much or so little room for error?
I think you just kind of have to, first off, you're going to have to race the track a little bit early for the majority of the race. That's how you do it for the majority of the race, but you really only have to focus on the drivers around you at the very beginning. There's many scary sort of corners, especially at this track. You have the downhill left turn, the second corner, where if you go out wide, your race is pretty much done. So you have to focus on that more importantly, especially if you're out of the groove. If you're on the right side line for that corner, you have to be very careful. You almost have to tiptoe your way around some of the guys that you're going to have to try to get around early, especially if you were on the losing end of the invert. So a lot of that's going to have to do with how you manage yourself on the very start. You have to be absolutely aware of everything around you.
We are in Bowmanville, Ontario for the last race of the season at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. And as I mentioned, the season began in Montreal a couple of months ago. Then it was the Nürburgring, Sebring International Raceway, the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Then it was Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and then Road America and Interlagos. And finally, this, the 8th and final round here at CTMP. Cars glowing in afternoon sunlight here in Bowmanville's, Ontario's gorgeous classic North American road racing circuit. The starting lineup is on the left side of your screen, as Blake Townend and Josh Manalo are your front runners here for this one. Christopher Cook, Vincent Trepanier, Stephen Warkup, and Guillaume Levesque may be the wild card here. So is Phil Bouchard. They're both going to start ahead of our championship rivals, which will start 8th and 9th respectively, kind of kitty corner to each other. And we've seen in race 2, it is so hard to make up ground, but you're going to have to if you want to win this championship.
It starts going to be very important for doing that. It's going to be very dicey with everyone packed up the first corner, but no doubt about it, just like almost any other race, your first lap after the initial start is going to be where you have to gain a lot of your positions if possible. So that's going to be the key part, how you get through traffic early on. Bouchard, you were talking about starting up there. He looked pretty short on pace in that last race. Obviously a longer race, he could have made changes potentially, but it's probably going to be very difficult to get around him again, and also very important to get around him.
Preston Fazui looking pretty composed right now, just getting the tires and brakes warmed up, and I don't know that I've ever seen Antoine as nervous and as under pressure as he is tonight. There's good reason for that. There's so much happening behind the scenes to practice for these events, to find pace for these events, the teamwork that he and Porsche Center Lausanne teammates have done to get to this point, and it all comes down to 30 minutes just now. And you can throw this away in 2 corners and it's over. And how do you reconcile that, Connor? There's so much on the line, and you're in control of so much of it, and so much of it you're not in control of.
Yeah, you just have to control what you're in control of. You can't let any risks of outside factors coming in take the toll on you. You have to be absolutely ready for this, and I don't know how you'd be able to cope if you threw it away in the first 2 corners, but obviously no way you're thinking about that. You're not going to throw it away in the first 2 corners. You have to be on your game here.
Safety car going to make that right-hand turn onto pit lane for the last time this season. The field rolls through turn number 10 here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. The sun is setting at the racetrack. It's setting on the season. Green flag one final time here, and a big launch and lunge by the 58 on the outside. Reston Fazui, take a turn. The 58 is going to go off track as well, and he's into the barriers already.
Goodness. Oh my goodness, who could have seen this coming? You have got to be joking. Both of them go off.
The 21 has made it through, though. He's still 7th place. The car that was turned around with him was the AAA to Guillaume Levesque, the teammate to the 21. So Antoine Lecharity is through the first corner. His championship rival is not.
We talk about first 2 corners. You can see the smile on him. I think he knows what this could potentially mean, but you can't let that get into you. You have to keep a straight face, and you have to be focused on the task at hand. I can't believe what's just unfolded.
And another car is off. That is, I think, Romain Faux at the top of Moss Corner, as here comes the 51 of Richard Hibbs on by. And just like that, we said how critical turn 1, lap 1 is in a race like this. And Antoine Lecharity, for how sweaty he was, how worn out he was from the 15-minute race, he has a second to breathe, but he still has to get the job done and cannot have a mistake like that. Let's go back and see if we can find out exactly what happened here on this initial start. Racine got clipped right at the end. Let's look for maybe from high above, and Connor, let's see what we can see. The 58's on the top of your screen. He gets a really good start, goes to the outside of the 888 right here, and then, it's contact from his teammate. It's Bouchard that got into the 888 to send the 58 into the wall.
Wow, that is going to leave a sour taste in his mouth, knowing that it was the teammate contact there. Very aggressive to go 3 wide. All 4 tires on that curb, first off, is aggressive enough, but to do that on your teammate is, I mean, the room is there, no doubt about it, but you can see it closes, and there's just absolutely no way you can get out of it at that point.
Yeah, and the question will become, was the 73 fully alongside another car going around? That's the 28 of Jonathan Brell in the Porsche Center Prestige car. But, that's one of those scenarios where, was there space? Yes. Was that gap going to close? Who knows? Was it risky? Absolutely. As Jake Sperry joins us now, Jake. Race 1, our championship rivals who were separated by just 4 points coming into the night, they finished 2nd and 3rd in that first race. And then in turn 1, lap 1, the 58 Arasim Fazui sent around after contact with Guillaume Levesque and his teammate Phil Bouchard. He's all the way back now in 29th place, while Antoine Lecharity runs in 6th place.
You're asking for the world to sort of swallow Rashim up whole. You don't want to ever be in that position where you just sit back and say, right, you've got the world to make up in terms of places. The Charité will be thinking about this, going, you know what? Having my teammate Guillaume Levesque run into Rashim Fazui, that's not part of the plan. When you've also got Rashim's teammate out there, Phil Bouchard, running into him as well, that's definitely not part of the plan. It means that the front of the field has a chance to think about itself for the moment, with Townend leading, with Manilow in 2nd, Cook in 3rd. But you look around, on Victoria Day, of all days, a national holiday in 6 of the 9 Canadian provinces, you've got a lot of work to do to try and bring yourself back in. It's going to take a modern miracle here for Rashim Fazui to get what he wants out of tonight.
Yeah, and that's so frustrating because we had such a great fight beginning to brew, but that doesn't mean it's over yet. You still have to make it 26 more minutes, and we've seen how drastic and how wild things can get in the closing moments. But knowing that he's got a huge advantage now, Antoine has got to be driving on eggshells a little bit. Leave yourself a little extra space. You've got plenty of distance and time to give up. You just don't want to get yourself in a tight spot where you end up getting turned around and fall behind the 58, because Rasim's not going to give up. We know that.
Look, if you're thinking about that right now, if you're Antoine Lecharité, you are thinking too much about this racing. All you've got to do is focus on the cars that are around you, ahead of you, behind you. You can only race what's in front of you, not what's 20-odd places back behind. And that's what Lecharité is going to have to do here. Knows that Phil Bouchard is probably going to make his life really, really difficult. Try and back him up a little bit into the likes of Andrew Caron and Simon Theriault. He's just got to drive his own race up through the Moss corners right now. What a brilliant corner that is on a circuit which I think is very old school, Kyle. One of the only circuits out there in the world whose designs has been unchanged since inception, and this track was built over 60 years ago.
Yeah, the other track that is like that here in North America is Road America, which we were at a couple of weeks ago. Liam Roudzidis and Nathan Bartley have had contact leaving Moss Corner here. Jake, let's have a look and see how this one started. The challenge right there, running wide on corner exit. Bumpy, rumble strips and grass. Not a lot of runoff room here, and it looks like they just got off course.
Everyone's going to be fighting for the same piece of real estate around this circuit. This is a track where it can very easily go wrong, as there's Stephen Walker in trouble then at the final corner at White. So he goes around and will drop way down the order. So we'll take a look at this as well. This is what you're going to find. Drivers going to make this push. Final corner, looking for room at the inside. Not quite sure that he got into the right position there. So that could very easily be a case of you're fighting for a bit of room, door very much shut there, and Walkup finds himself around.
Yeah, that's the classic Mosport pass. Turn 9 into turn 10, you get that overlap, you go for it, you get the right side tires up on the curb, and you just pray that the driver to your outside leaves you space, because if they don't, you end up crashing. But usually those are big dives up there, Jake, and often there's not overlap established before you get to the corner, and you end up having door contact. Blake Townend, who got pole based on that 10-driver invert, still leads this race, but not by much, over Josh Manalo, Christopher Cook, and Vincent Trepanier. And here comes Phil Bouchard in the 73. Not a lot of damage on the left front after that contact in the opening corner that sent his teammate for a spin, but there's still something for Porsche Center Reeve Sud to fight for.
There is, of course, that team's overall championship and, of course, the prizes that come in for the teams. We have a look as they jump in. Lausanne currently on top of that, but you look right down the board and you say, okay, 21 points. Riva Sud have a lot to try and gather back in terms of what they need, but let's not forget that points count pretty much everywhere down this order. Guillaume Levesque back down in 27th position. Rashim Fazui currently in P25 out there as we look at him now. P24, he makes the move at turn 1 on Romain Faux, so that gives him another one then to jump up. Every place matters in terms of the team's battle. So if someone like Guillaume Levesque gets stuck and gets held up in this group, which looks like he's ever so slightly managing at this point, it means that every place is an extra point at this moment in time down the hill through turn 4.
What a breathtaking sequence of corners. As you mentioned, it really has not changed fundamentally in over half a century. Big curb clobber there for the 298 car of Romain Faux as they head up onto the back straightaway once more. Out front, there is still Blake Townend, but now a pass for position Andrew Caron, who won the first race of the night, not by a little bit either. Here comes Vincent Trepanier. He's under fire from our points leader, Antoine Lacharité, and through into 5th place. He tried to go, but couldn't quite. Oh, he did complete that pass that time through.
Yeah, he did, and then Trepanier then will drop another one. He finds out what the freight train's all about. Therio jumps through. It was a beautiful donation then in terms of what Trepanier was doing there for La Charité. He knew that he needs to be in the right position. We look on board with Gregory Hoverson now moving through this Quebec corner, turn 3, because it is the closest corner to Quebec, and then driving down here in Bowmanville, Ontario, Canada, through turn 4 and back up to the Moss corner once again. You talk about how important overtakes are, and when you're in a group like you are at the front, where everything's very congested, you get shuffled out of line here. Oh, there goes Chris McGraw.
22nd place, Chris McGraw, and the Porsche Center North Toronto Porsche has gone around for a spill into the gravel trap. We've seen this a couple of times tonight already. He was side by side with the 2 of Etienne Leger. The 34 of Zoran Radosavec was behind him and just got into the back of him in the braking zone. Got it all wrong.
Look, Radosavec was trying really hard to get that slowed up, was trying to angle, always angling to the inside. Never truly gets alongside though, and you've got to be alert about that when you're braking. If you can't find an angle, you're going to have to hit the brakes slightly quicker than someone else. Here's a bit more side by side as Guillaume Levesque and Stephen Walkup now start to trade for position, but Walkup, having none of it, holds on through the final corner.
And Liam Rudzitas right behind. All 3 of these drivers have gotten turned around at some point tonight. And here comes the 888 back down the inside, late move into turn 1. Fast flowing corner. It's going to send the 4 car way out wide into the gravel and into the tire barriers at the exit of turn 1.
When it rains, it pours. And that one for Stephen Walkup will be a tow back to the pits and his day all but done with that going through. We focus back though to the front, and I tell you what, we have to give some credit here to Blake Townend and the way that he's been driving. Started 16th over the course of the first race out here today. Made those 6 places to get to the transfer at 10th position for this reverse of top 10, and has stayed at the front, keeping Josh Manilow at a good 2 to 3 tenths of a second at least on the Mario Andretti straightaway, all the way away from getting a chance to go through. And this is a place where you can be a little bit single-handed or single-minded in terms of where's the best place to make a pass. If you've got turn 8 covered, it's very difficult to get by here.
Yeah, that's one of the things we talked about in the pre-race is the challenges of making overtakes here. There's opportunities everywhere, but all of them are extremely high-speed, downforce corners that if you slip the slightest bit, you're going to end up in the wall, and not just with a little impact. It's always a big one here. So turn 8, if you can get to the inside, it's a great passing opportunity. But everywhere else, you're going in so fast and with so much momentum, it's just very difficult to find and create overlap there without also creating a really dangerous scenario. So it's a challenging racetrack. It's fun to watch and it's fun to drive, but it can be frustrating if your car or driver is not better than the driver ahead in just the right way.
It's also the sort of race where if you can just fall the wrong side of some car here or there, it could spell trouble. But I tell you what, it's an interesting top 5 out there with Andrew Caron holding on to that 5th position in a very, very beautifully designed machine out there riding on through. You've got that secondary group that follows just behind it as they go through. And I think it shows that the Charité is giving himself a little bit of gap here in 6th positions. Not immediately on the challenge here to the front 5, but at the same time is still doing enough to keep Simon Theriault at bay as about half a second's buffer, like a life jacket in between as they take the run through Clayton's Corner, turn 2.
Almost halfway through this 30-minute race, another driver we have to highlight. He won race 1, Andrew Caron in the 06 for Porsche Center Halifax. With his running tonight and the troubles for the Triple Eight of Guillaume Levesque, Andrew Caron has now overtaken Levesque for 3rd in the championship. And remember that the prizing really drops off after those top 3 places. So that's big news for Caron. But he's got to keep moving forward the best he can and hope that that Triple Eight doesn't eat some of those positions back as well, because Levesque had about a 15-point lead on him coming into the night, as now Caron is on the tailpipes of Bouchard up the back straightaway.
He is, and now it's time to go, because every point will now matter for him. He's trying to build a buffer, looking over to the left-hand side of the circuit, trying to find a pass, but the issue he's got is that he will lose out on the draft trying to make that overtake. So he's got to be patient. He can't afford to sit around and wait forever, but he'll also know he's going to be down in a straight line. Every time he pulls out to try and make that move, he gets hit by a wall of air as he goes through. Every car in front of every other car punches a hole through the air. That slipstream, that gives you the ability to go a few kilometers an hour faster down the straight. But the issue that you've got, the moment you pull out of that, you're reliant on that overspeed to go through. And there often is, with these Porsches, not much difference when it comes to being in the draft compared to being out of it.
Gregory Hoveson, we've documented his climb so far, beginning to put some pressure on Vincent Trepanier in the number 87. Also, the front 2, Townend and Manalo, they've done an amazing job at staying out front. They've got the advantage of the invert. But as we've seen this season, if you don't have the pace, you're not going to keep those positions, especially with drivers that are in the top 5 of the championship, hunting not too far behind. So excellent work there by Townend and Manalo in the 86. Then Christopher Cook in the 66. How about this run for him? Started this race in 4th, and he runs 3rd now.
Yeah, he is having a really good run as Christopher Cook at this point, is just holding station in that 3rd place, not willing to risk his opening half of the race, just seeing where the lay of the land is, behind the Porsche Center Vancouver car of Josh Manalo in 2nd position, through White's Corner then, and passing Barney the flagman there on the gantry, waiting towards turn number 1 out there overall. And there's more troubles, and this is Romain Faux, who's found himself the wrong way around, and it looks like he's had a big tangle there.
Yeah, this is at Moss Corner, and just awkwardly drives off course at the top of the hill, and then right there contact with the 23 of Gustavo Foise in the white car. And it's just, you just trundle off course there, and the grip level is so minimal when you get back on track, but the damage to Foe's car is pretty extreme.
It is extreme, and the issue that you got is that you're driving around at Moss Corner. The moment you miss your braking point by 2 meters, it's accentuated by 10. And you often find that if you run slightly wide there, you're always fighting to get the car back on track. Very easy to lose that grip in the grass, and then all of a sudden you find yourself pointing the wrong way on the apex, and bang, there's the contact. That's how quickly it can go wrong as we focus a little bit further back through the pack. This is around 12th position, around Matt Adams at this point in time. You got Yonganon Renault, who is there just in front. That is a driver who is certainly going to be trying to push with everything he's got. Had a horrible qualifying, which I'm surprised to see for Yon to be outside the top 20. And look at Matt Adams show that aggressiveness we've seen all season. He's pushing. Here comes Romagnolo.
To the inside at turn number 1. The 55 had overlap, but cancels the overtake attempt down there as they get to turn number 1. Yonganon Renault has had some amazing rounds in really the second race typically of these events, but you have to have a strong qualifying effort to get yourself in inversion territory. He was not able to do that tonight. Trepanier and Hoveson, their big fight for 8th place is beginning to kick off. Those embers are reigniting, as are the battle for 3rd. Christopher Cook and Phil Bouchard are only separated by a tenth and a half.
Yeah, Bouchard knows that he wants to try and make some places. He can't directly affect the championship at this point in time. He can only push, and you can see that calm as ever, as he just knows that he's got to try and find where can I make this move. The issue he's got is that the car in front of him, Christopher Cook, has Josh Manilow for a bit of company, but Manilow over this lap has dropped about 3/4 tenths of a second then, and a little surge from Bouchard to the inside at turn 8. Not quite enough to get what he wants out of it, but he's showing a nose, he's showing a willingness to get into the mirrors, making his car seem a little bit wider than it is. Big tail grab coming out then of the corners as Hoverson now searches and does make the pass on Trepanier for 8.
Yeah, that search into turn 8 by the 73 of Bouchard was definitely intriguing to watch, because you can get away with sticking your nose in there pretty deep if the driver will leave you space, because the next turn is a left-hander. So sometimes if you leave that open lane to the inside, you'll get it right back. But sometimes that's an invitation for disaster as well. Romagnolo passed Matt Adams for 12th place. And we should mention, despite the contact and spin from the number 58 of Rasim Fazouzi at the start of the race, last time by, he just ran faster than everyone else on the racetrack. Fastest car on this track right now, but in 22nd place.
Well, there's not much more he can do. If he's running fastest laps, he's actually had to close down a 4-second gap over the course of this. Etienne Legere now in the pit, so he's running into troubles, and it's that's as plain sailing as it gets. You run off at Moss Corner, it is unforgiving. Those walls really do creep up on you there at that section of track. That's another one to put in the Fazouzi back pocket. Another place he gains back on the Charité, but it is a bit too little too late. He's relying on this front group to stop being tame and timid and saying their pleases and thank yous and decide, you know what, I'm going to take what's mine. That's what he wants.
And Matt Adams took back a position and now is launching an assault on the outside of Yongunon Renault into turn number 1. They're going to be hip and shoulder here through the first corner. That was very dicey stuff, but Adams decisively slides back ahead of the pink Porsche Center North Toronto car, and Romagnolo back to third behind them, 11th, 12th, and 13th.
Oh, but there's the look from Romagnolo on Yongunon Renault. Little bit of hit, gonna get it through then at Quebec corner. Thank you very much. That is the move done, and that, I think, was just the most beautiful bump and run style overtake out there. There was only a little bit of contact there. You could argue that was a touring car move.
I would say so. That was the kind of contact that you could get away with and not have someone want to tackle you after the night. Just a little bit of contact door to door, nothing front to rear. Didn't crash him, didn't wreck him, just rubbed you. And something about rubbing his race in, or some prophet once said. But 10 and a half minutes to go, and Blake Townend has had nobody beside him just yet. But Josh Manilow in the 86, you mentioned it a few laps ago, how he was starting to lose a little bit of pace. And no one's really taken the fight to the 86 either, so he's a bit of a cork in the bottle right now, but how long will that pressure build?
How long indeed, and Manilow has been very content with that second position. Hasn't been truly a challenge yet to Blake Townend, who has just driven his race at the front, and especially through the opening 3 to 4 corners on this circuit, you get an understanding of that aero wash around this track. You get those medium to high speed corners, and that rear downforce that you get on this sort of car is very difficult to follow through that style of corner. That's why Blake Townend gains a little bit of an advantage up the hill on the brakes, through the double apex right-hander, and attack off the exit. It's great that you get this chance to punch through the hole here on this long straight, but the opening half of the lap, very difficult to follow in the wheels.
Up the back straightaway now, 9 minutes and 20 seconds remain in the 2023 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. A little bit of racing here. Phil Bouchard to the inside of the 66 of Christopher Cook. This time he's going to get fully alongside him.
He's going to get alongside. He's going to open the door up almost behind for Andrew Caron too to make that move, and he's going to make a big dive over at the final corner. Searches up the inside. Thank you very much. Takes 4th place away. Christopher Cook doesn't know what's hit him. Has had a very, very quiet run of racing. All of a sudden finds himself 5th and sees champions-elect behind him in Antoine de Charité.
And Antoine again was sweating profusely in the first race with Rasim Fazui right on his heels. You can still see the beads of sweat on his forehead here. He is still in focus. He knows that until the checkered flag falls, there's no guarantees in this field. That 58 is climbing forward. If he were to slip off Antoine, then it would be a big deal. It would be championship over. So he needs to keep focused. A top 5 would do it, but spinning out, getting crashed would not do it. And that's an important moment here as Rasim passes Nicolas Michel in the number 11.
Yep, so Fazui up to 18th. The difference on circuit in terms of time is 14 seconds. That's the difference maker at this moment. Rashton can only go through one car at a time, 14 seconds. That is the on-track difference between these drivers here. And that means if there is an issue for La Charité, a light off, he might get away with. A heavy off, he might not. That's the key here. You're dancing about with, if I run into issues, and those are the small gremlins that you get in the back of the head. Those, you know, does my engine sound good? Or am I over-revving it into a couple of corners? You know, you get the small things, you know, am I overturning it? Is my force feedback too high? You know, you get those sorts of questions, you know, the really annoying ones that you go, no, be quiet. I'm doing this how I've always raced.
And I don't think anyone's lit the candle for the battle up front just yet. We're going to see that explosion of energy late in this race. It always happens after everyone has gotten to really the last couple of laps. Then they start to fight because they feel that at that stage they're safe up front. But what that can sometimes draw is incidents in contact. And for Antoine, he doesn't even need to be in his own incident. He has to make sure he doesn't get wrapped up in anyone else's, either behind or in front. And he's packed in there pretty tight inside the midst of the top 10 right now. So he's not safe until that car crosses underneath the checkered flag. Rasim Fazui up to 17th now, past the number 70.
Look, I always am reminded of probably the greatest rivalry ever, which is Senna versus Prost. And I'm reminded of Alain Prost at this moment in time. An engineer in terms of driving, but only had to get what he must to score points to win a championship. Wouldn't mind if it's second, it's third, it's fourth, it's sixth, it's eighth, it's 18th. He will go and he will get the finish required to win the championship outright, and that's where La Charité finds himself through. Rasim Fazui, you can see he's got a defeated look on his face there, Kyle. I think he knows that his championship is over, bar a miracle happening here on what is a very, very late Victoria evening right now here in Canada. And you start to search and go, well, what can I find? He's in a group. That's going to be beneficial there for Rashid. He's just going to have to hope that someone's getting their aggressive boots out. Simon Theriault is close, but not close enough here. Has a little search in the mirrors, trying to go up the hill, in through the Moss corner.
And Andrew Caron is on the tailpipes of Phil Bouchard now. I expect this to get very interesting. Porsche Center Halifax here versus the number 73 Porsche Center Reeves Sudkar. Here they come, side by side up the straightaway.
Well, can he find it? Remember, it crests and plateaus here just before turn 8, right before the breaking point. Bouchard covering off on the inside, but Caron carrying that mid-speed gets himself to side-by-side at turn 9. He doesn't have clearance, though, at turn 10. He's going to have to go the road hard traveled around the outside, and he's still on the wrong side of the road, heading towards turn number 1 as he tries to get this all sorted. This is brave, brave driving by Andrew Caron here on this outside. If he's got the inside for 2, he is in dreamland right now. Down the inside, can he force the door shut on Bouchard? Answer is yes. Here comes Cook.
That was unbelievable driving there by Caron to go around the outside of the number 73. And in behind that 66 now becomes a threat in the mirror for Bouchard. But they clear and they continue without any contact. All the while, they gave a lot of distance away to Manilow and Townend up front. They would like to make this a 2-horse race for first place and not involve anybody behind. But there's still time on the board for that to reel back in.
Look, they don't mind what's happening for third position, the top 2. They don't have looks at the championship. They're just thinking, can I get a win to end this season off and really make something of it? That's all they care about at this point. Once more, Bouchard tries to line up Andrew Caron. He's not going to get it here. Not this time on the Porsche Center Halifax car, which has so much pivot there. Kyle, through the middle of the corner. It is telling as Matt Adams just behind decides, you know what, he wants to get his big overtakes on because he's got eyes on what has been a great drive so far tonight from Giovanni Romano. Let's go 3 into turn 1. This can only end one way, and the answer is in the pocket of Giuliano Romagnolo.
How about a 2-for-1 down at turn number 1? He's going to get both spots away, one from Adams, one from Romano, and move himself into 10th place in that number 55. And what a drive from 20th on the grid. This is an exceptional race for Romagnolo as Adams continues to scrap with that 337 car. In the background, and Yonganal Renault is off in the grass behind, and he's just going to miss the concrete barrier there at the exit of turn 3.
I thought that rear wing would just clipped it going through. It was that close. So you see this, turn 3, the wake in front would have pushed him off slightly, and then breathe in as you go through there. Jon still has a car. Look at that. Oh, I thought that was it.
So close. The mirror's still on it, the wing's still on it, and the driver's still on it. 13th place there for Yonganal Renault. As we approach the final 2 minutes and 30 seconds of this race, Blake Townend rolls through turn number 10. This should be 2 laps to go this time through. What it would mean for him to cling on, and there's trouble in the background. The 55's in the wall.
Yeah, that's Romagnolo, and that's a real hurt for someone who's been making just a great move a lap ago. He's got to be careful he doesn't go backwards too far, or he will be disqualified by the iRacing system. Does a flick spin to get it going again. So here we go. It's Matt Adams, gets down the inside. Romagnolo ends up trying to be forceful, and he just has nowhere to go. You can see Adams does well, just comes off the curb slightly there, does Matt. Just a little bit too aggressive, and that's what's caused the incident.
Yeah, and those two drivers will very much disagree on whose fault that was, I'm almost certain. But it has been a rough one for the 55, the last half of the lap. And for the top spot, as you mentioned, here comes Manilow.
Oh, just a mistake. The first time we've seen Blake Townend really make something bad of it, and it's now going to be 3 wide at the front. Andrew Caron started in 10th. He's going for the double here at Mosport, and he's going to have to really fight for it. The power from Manilow around the outside. Manilow is dumped. Oh, sorry, not Manilow. The other driver, Townend, is dumped. What a shame.
Then Townend from the lead down to outside of the top 10. Absolutely not the direction he wanted to go. By the way, white flag, 1 lap to go. Here comes Bouchard. Here comes Caron into turn 1.
And all this craziness, you just got to stay head above water if you're in P5 and your car number is 21. Antoine Lecharité right now has the championship in the palm of his hands. Bouchard is thinking about a victory to end this season, but it's by no means a done deal. They've got to get through Josh Manilow just yet, and Manilow's proven already he'll do anything to win.
Last half a lap here. Last time through Moss Corner. Last time down the elevation sweep. Back up the hill again. Gravity slowing the cars down. There's a touch there from Caron to Manilow. They're bumping and banging here. Last time down the straightaway, the 0-6 slips.
And just like that, the gap opens for Josh Manilow. He's got himself about 4 car lengths to play with here on the Mario Andretti straightaway. And now it's Bouchard looking for second position. Does he have the angle heading towards turn 8? Caron defends.
Final sequence of corners in the 2023 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. Bouchard around the outside of Caron. He's not going to get overlapped this time. Josh Manilow in the number 86 for the first time this season in the last race of the season. He's going to drag race to the line. He will win it though, but just by a half a car length, and all the while in 5th place, outlasting his championship rival. It was a clean race, a 5th place for Antoine Lecharité, and it's going to be enough to win him the 2023 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada. He is your champion of this championship.
Oh, you can just see the sigh of relief on his face that he's got through the end of that race. He has deserved this by virtue of the way he's driven from race 1 all the way to race 16 in this championship, Kyle. He has driven well within his bounds. He has had races where he's been great, but he has been defined in the races where he has not been great. Rashim Fazui is someone who wears his heart on his sleeve, and by comparison, he won't be happy with what happened. He won't be happy by the fact he was turned around, but he's thrown everything at the table And I think he can still be proud of the way that he's driven a season. He is someone who's definitely had the pure pace, but the package over a season, I think the Charité's been the better driver.
And he is going to win a whole host of prizes, including a 2-day Porsche Track Experience program at the Porsche Driving Center, as well as a Tag Heuer connected watch, Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds, and a whole host of Porsche Motorsport swag, and a whole bunch of other things as well. And the value of that deep into the thousands of dollars, and all of it is worth it now. All the time and effort and energy you spend, your teammates working on driving, practicing, figuring out the conditions. Antoine Lacharité is your champion, and it was well-deserved.
Undoubtedly. Moves over the front. I reckon we know what we're about to see here from car number 21. Absolutely. We're getting donuts.
Let's do it. Antoine Lacharité celebrates for him and his Porsche Center and Porsche Center Lausanne with this. Again, I think how it's going to pan out is Lausanne will also win the Porsche Center Championship, and well-deserved for them as well. Them and their team, the 888, that was an interesting fight all season long. There's the 58, Arasim Fazui. And why not a celebration a little bit as well? A second place, not too bad. And you know what? There's some sportsmanship here, I'd have to imagine, celebrating with Andrew Caron, or excuse me, with Antoine Lacharité. It could have gone another way today, and I think everybody knows that.
I think they do, and I think Rashim should hold his head up high. He gave a really good account of himself this season, but the good thing about the Porsche Sprint Challenge Canada, it's not a one-and-done deal. You can always come back next year, Kyle, and you can always challenge for that championship again. And I tell you what, he's the sort of driver who is going to be hungry to try and get that result, as we have our official race results from race 16 of this championship of 16 on screen right now.
And Porsche Center Vancouver going to victory lane in this last race of the season. Josh Manilow, what a drive he did. And you have to feel for Blake Townend, who led the majority of that race, had contact and was sent backwards, ended up 11th place outside of the top 10. But your season champion, the number 21, 5th place in this one. And Andrew Caron, with the drive he had, moved past Phil Bouchard into 3rd place in the championship. And so he will pick up a podium and that podium pricing that comes with. And as far as the Porsche Center points, Porsche Center Lausanne, 5 points ahead of Rive Sud to win the championship.
Oh, they left it very, very late. And you can see the lights there of Cook in 4th, the Lacharité 5th. You look down the order, Blake Townend, it's 11th for the Winnipeg driver. That would be a real shame for him. And you saw drivers there trying to make progress. Rashim Fazui, at the end of all of the racing, was down at least 20 seconds at one point, managed to bring it back to 14.5 seconds over the line. And that, for him, was a case of how he could try and drive back through 16th. It will be for him. Guillaume Levesque as well. This is what actually gives Lausanne the championship over Rive Sud. That 18th place finish. You don't often talk about 18th place finishes mattering, Kyle. That was an 18th place finish that mattered.
It really did for Guillaume Levesque for Porsche Center Lausanne. Let's have a look at the rest of the running order here before we talk to not only your winner and your podium finishers, but the champions as well. Some unfortunate endings to the season for the Mark Motors number 2, Etienne Leger, 28th, Gustavo Foze in the Porsche Center Victoria car, 29th, Stephen Warcup, and a host of others out in this one. A lot of single car incidents in Porsche Center Markham. This is a race they like to forget as well.
Absolutely. They'll chalk that up to experience and gain a little bit more knowledge from it, but a real shame for them in terms of what happened today here at Mosport. But there are drivers who are going to be happy up and down this virtual paddock, Kyle, and I believe we've got a chance to start talking.
Yeah, let's start chatting with our top runners here of this race. I want to chat first with Andrew Caron, because with his win and his 2nd place tonight, Andrew, you've catapulted yourself into 3rd in the standings for the season. So you're on the podium for the season as well as both races tonight. Take us through your evening and the season. Congratulations on the result.
Thanks a lot. I mean, I'm really happy with the results tonight. You know, I didn't think I would be 3rd halfway down the championship, but now with my last few rounds, I think I really got some good points, so I put myself in a good position. I was really lucky tonight. I think there was a crash at the start of the 8 that pretty much decided my 3rd place. So I'm sad for Guillaume. but those things can happen. Uh, but at this point, I cannot believe it. I mean, I put in a lot of work for this round. I think it went really well with the pole, the sprint win, the feature. Good battle with Phil was really, really fun. Nearly got the win there, but I was really trying to keep Phil behind more than trying to win this race.
And in terms of the season championship, third place is certainly fantastic. But assuming that you're coming back again next season, what things have you learned this year that you can apply to next time around to try to be 2 spots better on the season end podium?
It's a long journey. This competition for me. I finished second place in the last few seasons, and this time in third place. I think I got to work more on not being too stressed about it, and just doing it for fun. Like we just had a good battle with Phil was so fun. I mean, I wish I would have that much fun each time I would go on the track, but sometimes the stress is too much, so like we're a bit too serious.
Andrew, congratulations for you and Porsche Center Halifax. An excellent season. Wind up with a podium and a race win tonight to boot. Congratulations, and we'll see you hopefully again next season.
Thanks a lot. I just want to say thanks to Advanced Motorsport, Porsche of Halifax, and Perry Performance for the support all the season, and see you guys next season.
Thank you. Congrats. Move on now to our race winner, Josh Manalo, in the driver of the number 86 car for Porsche Center Vancouver. Josh, great driving tonight, and you're going to pick up a victory for yourself and your Porsche Center, holding off Andrew Caron, Phil Bouchard, and many other contenders. It got scrappy there towards the end. Take us through what you saw at the windshield in the closing laps here at Mosport.
It did. It was pretty intense. First of all, I'd like to thank my sponsors, Porsche Center Vancouver, Motorsport Advanced Driving, Tony Morse Jr., and of course my teammate Brody Goble for all the support. It's just so hard to pass here. The draft is really strong, the back straight, but you can really cover it off. So I never thought I'd win a race here, but to be honest, it's just so intense. That reverse grid obviously helped put me in the front row, but I just had to cover the inside in the final corner there, because I think that was Caron or Bouchard that sticked his nose in, and I'm like, yeah, well, that's the last chance, and I can cover that, and it's not going to ruin the rest of my lap. So, yeah, I'm just really happy to be P1 for Porsche Center Vancouver.
And looking back at the season as a whole, obviously this is such a competitive championship, and you mentioned it yourself, winning is so hard. What are your takeaways from the competition here this season? It just seems like it's so fierce and so hard to find consistency when everyone is at the limit all the time.
It is. It's just putting all the time in, like, an hour every day for every single track. It's just that competitive. So that's all I can say. It's just put in the time and just give her.
Well, Josh, congratulations. Celebrate this one, a win in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada in 2023. It's going to feel good. Celebrate it, and congrats. Hopefully we'll see you again next season.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on now to our champion and our runner-up. Let's start with Rasim Fazouhi, who brings it home in 16th place. And I know this is not the result that you were looking for. I think that's pretty clear. And it did not start the way that we expected it either. But are there takeaways from this season? I mean, it was going to come down to a scrap between you and Antoine, but we just never got to see it.
Yeah. The takeaways that I would have wished that the whole season was a scrap between myself and Antoine. I'll be fully transparent. Leading to the last 3 events, I had to up there, right? And I was like, whatever happens, happens. And then the Road America incident happens and it resets the points. Well, actually, Interlagos resetted the point, but it's like so many things happened during the season. GG's to Antoine. And to Phil, myself, Guillaume, I watched the replay of the incident. It's just the whole season felt like a roll of the dice. We got Lausanne Rive-Sud P1, P2. That's what I'm most happy about. I want to thank Rive-Sud for this opportunity. I'll sit upright because I feel disrespectful right now, just leaning in my chair like it's I don't know how to say the word in English, but the thing that you swing between shoes. Shout out Apex. I look forward to race with them, Apex Racing Academy. Shout out Porsche for for this series, because honestly it was a lot of fun amid the crashes and unfortunate circumstances. It was cool. It was cool, and I do some real life data analysis or driving coaching for Riceback. Shout out Riceback. And when I walk in the paddock, like a few people recognize me at times, and I was like, they're like, yeah, we watched the Porsche stuff. So bittersweet ending to the season, but we gave the people a lot of highlights and good stuff to rewatch throughout the season. So I hope everybody enjoyed it, and I'll take home P2 and get my jacket that I'm missing, and I'm gonna get a martini tin can, whatever, that I don't know where I'm gonna put.
Well, Racine, thanks so much for being with us here this season. It was so much fun to watch you, and it was just unfortunate for it to end the way it did, but a second place certainly still fantastic, and enjoy it. Hopefully we'll see you again to compete again next season.
Thank you. Cheers.
And last but certainly not least is Antoine Lacharité, who brings it home in 5th place in race number 2. But it was enough. With the dramas behind, Antoine, you were able to come out with the championship. You came into the night so close. We could tell how nervous you were. But when race 2, that green flag flew, the dramas and the smoke and the spins, and then it was just clinging on to 5th. Take us through your evening. Take us through your season. You're a champion in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada.
Yes, to be honest, part of me is a bit disappointed that we didn't have a good battle, but another part of me just enjoying the feeling of to be the champion, especially in the in a category like that, very hard category to win race, and being super lucky this season. And yeah, I'm super proud of what we achieved.
The competition level in this series just continues to get more and more fierce every single year. It's no surprise that it came down to just a single multi-point championship battle at the end here. Looking ahead to future seasons, what have you learned this year? I mean, everyone's learned something across the season, and I've just learned that it's harder and harder and harder to win these races. So if you come back with your Porsche Center, which, again, we shout out to Porsche Center Lausanne, you guys clinched the championship for the Porsche Centers as well. What's next for you next season?
Next season, just be better, to be honest. Always aiming to be a bit better at every single season, and that's what we did this season. The step a bit higher. Next season is gonna be the same thing, a bit faster, a bit smarter, and everything.
Antoine, congratulations and enjoy the celebration. Porsche Track Experience program on your horizon. That's big prizing, as well as a whole bunch of Porsche Motorsports swag and a Tag Heuer watch. Some Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds on your way as well. So enjoy all those things. Enjoy the celebration. Congratulations.
Can I just mention a bit of, thank you for my sponsor and everything?
Absolutely.
So, thank you, first of all my family. Big support. Love it so much. If they weren't there, I won't be in this simulator today to win this championship. And also, I want to thank all my teammates. They are great guys. They make me improve so much the last 2 years. So very happy about that. Congrats to Racim. We give a big battle at the end of the season. It was great. And I want to finish with the main sponsor. So team Porsche Lausanne, thank you so much, guys. There's so much great people there to help us. It was super fun this season. And Advanced Sim Racing and Advanced Motorsport, thank you guys for supporting us. It's very great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Antoine. Again, congratulations, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, guys.
With that, Jake, that's going to wrap up our championship for the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada in 2023. An incredible season across 8 different rounds from March to May. And, man, looking back on it, tonight was a tough one for the championship battle. We were expecting it to be nip and tuck, so close. It ended up being a little bit further than we thought. But at the end of the day, the sportsmanship and the respect that those two drivers have for each other, that was the most satisfying thing for me, Jake, as we finish out this season on a high note, at least for Antoine Lacharité and Porsche Center Lausanne.
You can see it in the way that they race each other. When they've raced each other out there on this season, they've given immense amounts of respect, and they've let all their action on the track show just how good the two of those drivers were. Yes, it's not the way that you want a championship to end, and no, it's not necessarily as close as people want it, but you have to remember, you've got to go and get it done no matter what the circumstances are around a racing series, a racing championship like this. Antoine Le Charité here today on Victoria Day had the most industrial-like performance. It didn't need to be flashy. It just needed to get the job done. It worked. It was engineered to perfection. And that's why he is your 2023 Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Canada champion.
He's going to get a chance to drive the Porsche Track Experience program. It's going to be a big part of the jump from virtual to reality for Antoine. And again, congratulations to him and Porsche Center Lausanne. Big thank you to the partners and people that make this happen behind the scenes or on the screen. Bose, Tag Heuer, Porsche as well. Also want to thank Grid Engineering for coming on board this season, and Apex V2R behind the scenes putting on these events week in and week out. Often is thankless to do all the things like putting up all the sessions and making sure all the settings are right in this virtual championship, and they've done an exceptional job, Jake. But it's glad to be with you here this season. You were here for a couple of rounds, got to see some of the action. But my final thoughts on the season, Jake, were that this was unbelievable. I can't wait to do it again.
I can't wait either. This is the sort of championship where you sense everybody is putting 100% of their effort into finding those fine margins. And the more that they put and the more effort that they invest into a series like this, the top's only going to get more and more intensive. The gaps are only going to get closer. The margins are only going to get finer. I think next season is going to be a real telling point of who's done their homework during the off season, who has improved over a year to get back to this point. And quite often when you find in sim racing, the top does change. There's drivers that you see at the top, but you get some drivers you find a rich vein of form who just understand what sim racing is. And I reckon next year is going to be one of those. Someone in that group who's been in and around 6th to 10th position in this championship is going to skyrocket.
We'll see you again in the year 2024. I'm Kyle Heuer with Jake Sperry. We've had DJ Clark with us, Connor Horn with us throughout the season. Big thanks everyone for joining us here on the Porsche Twitch channel. If you have not yet followed or subscribed, you should do that now. There's plenty more esports content coming your way, championships from across the world, iRacing influencers, Porsche influencers. We're not done on this channel despite our championship coming to a close. We'll see you again in 2024. Kyle Heuer, Jake Sperry, DJ Clark, Vinny DeCuna, Connor Horn. We'll see you next time.